Hi everyone, Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a Teacher Talk Tuesday for the first time in a very long time. So this is actually being filmed on Monday, January the 4th. We've just been told up and down the country that schools are going to be closed for longer than we'd anticipated. Obviously here in Scotland, they'd already made a decision to have schools closed up until the 18th of January for the majority of students, but now England have followed suit. However, they've gone a step further and they've said that they're actually closing schools for most students and up until February half term. Scotland at the moment, we've been told that the schools will be closed till the end of January at least, and then they're going to review the situation. So yeah, it's a very strange time to be a teacher right now. I feel like there's a lot more things going out on social media about how, what teachers are actually saying is not being listened to. Yesterday, Boris Johnson said that schools are a safe place from the virus, and today he's come out and said that schools are vectors of transmission. So as this MP Zara said, science didn't change overnight. A lot of us teachers are feeling like we've kind of been forgotten in this whole pandemic in terms of what about our rights and our safety and the safety, of everyone. I mean, ideally, schools could be back open again if there was adequate space for everyone's social distance, and we want the well-being of our students to be up here. That's the most important thing for us. In order for our students' well-being to be up here, our health and well-being needs to be up here too. It has to be a balanced thing, and the more teachers who have to isolate or go off sick, the harder it is for the rest of the staff. And I feel really blessed that I'm in a school where they have got a brilliant system in place with the bubbles, and the students have to stay within their class bubbles, and have done such an amazing job at sticking to that. So the cases in our primary school have been extremely low, but in a high school or secondary school, to try and control this bubble system with such a huge amount of students, it's just near enough impossible. So yeah, I think everyone's got mixed feelings about this. I definitely have mixed feelings about it. Like, I don't think, closing schools down completely is to the benefit of everybody, but I do think as well that with this new strain, it's a very scary time. It's a very hard time, and I think the fact that we are still dealing with this and it's almost been a year is extremely tiring for everyone who's involved, and that is basically the whole country. We're all involved in some way, whether you are a parent, a teacher, a student, whether you are a teacher and a parent as well. Like, I'm sure you will have different views. Let's just talk now personally about me, because this is obviously my channel and I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. I've been getting loads of questions recently, like, are you still teaching? Are you supply teaching? What's going on? So technically on the payroll I am still listed as a supply teacher. However, I am contracted to one school 3 days a week, and my days have changed as well. So I was previously working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm now working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I basically got like a long weekend every week, which works really well for me, alhamdulillah. And I've got a lot of questions about, the difference between teaching in England and Scotland, and I definitely will be doing a video on that in the next coming weeks on a Tuesday, because there is quite a few differences. But I also have never experienced teaching full-time in Scotland in the same way that I have in England, and I've never had my own class in Scotland, whereas I have in England. So I can only sort of talk about what I've seen from my experience, but not necessarily compare the experiences parallel next to each other, because I've not had that experience yet. So I'm not now, or actually I've never really have been on call as a supply teacher, in terms of I've never had the possibility of the council calling me and saying, oh, we need you to cover this school, we need you to cover this school. And I feel like that could have possibly been the case back in March, but then obviously with the pandemic, they're trying to stop the number of staff sort of moving between schools as much as possible, and it really would not be sensible or viable for me to be going into one school for 3 days and then going to another school for another day and possibly transmitting the virus between the schools and between hundreds of students essentially. That's why I have stuck to one school, and I am technically listed as a long-term supply teacher for them now, and alhamdulillah, I am so happy where I am because the experience is invaluable. I would never have had the experience of teaching this many different year groups with the number of years of experience that I have had I not have gone down the supply route. What I will say about supply though, it's a very, very flexible role, and you have to accept that and understand that from the get-go. Your timetable will change continuously. Mine definitely has. Sometimes week to week it's been totally different. There was a period of time where I was getting messages from SLT in the morning saying, oh, we need you to cover this class, we need to cover this class and this class, etc. I've been doing one-to-one with certain students as well. I was supposed to be running groups, but that's been very difficult to do, what with all the need for the cover. And now what I'm currently doing, and what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks, is I've been doing what we would call in England PPA cover, but in here it's RCT cover. So essentially every single teacher has contracted, like, I think if you're full-time it's 2.5 hours of time away from their class to plan, to assess, to mark, to do whatever they need to do for the class. Every school is very different. So in my school where I did my NQT year and my RQT year in, when I had my own class, we actually had a music teacher and a PE teacher as the PPA teachers. So we would never teach our classes PE or music, although when I was doing my NQT I had to do 1 hour of PE to show that I could teach PE. And basically then on the Wednesday, that was like my whole NQT/PPA day, so I had like the whole day, which was great. And then the next year it went back to normal. So here in Scotland, well, in the school that I'm in currently, obviously I can't speak for all schools, but in the school that I am in currently, I give most teachers about an hour, sometimes an hour and 15 minutes of time, and then there's another teacher who does performative arts like drama, expressive arts, that sort of thing with each class. So I can't explain like how varied my experience has been since I've started teaching here in Scotland. Literally, I've done things that I never imagined would be in my realm of experience in this short time, which has been incredible, to be honest. The experience, like, I feel like if I was to rewrite my teacher CV now, which I actually should probably get around to doing at some point, I could fill it up so much more. I've had a wealth of experience, and the nice thing about this role is you get to work with pretty much all the staff across the school. You get to work with all the support staff, and you get to know so many different children as well. Something I found a bit overwhelming though is that the way I describe my role now is I'm basically like a high school or secondary school teacher in a primary school, because I have 9 different classes, and that's 9 different sets of names, class names to learn, which is between 24 to 34 children per class. That's all the different personalities, that's all the different needs of the class as well. Obviously you need to know like who's autistic, who's dyslexic, all the different needs, so that you are able to provide the best type of learning. And to a certain extent it's 9 kind of different plans, although I actually only like took over this role of covering 9 classes just before this term ended. And so I did like one uniform lesson for all the classes at the beginning, which worked really well. So originally I actually had 3 classes that I had taken over for the mornings, and then the rest of the afternoons, like, it was a different timetable. But now I've got like all my 3 days are basically packed out with teaching, and it's great to be back in the classroom teaching again. It's such a lovely feeling to be back in that role again, which I'm really, really enjoying. But obviously it has been quite overwhelming because there's a lot of change, there's a lot of differences. But yeah, alhamdulillah, it's been going well so far. I've been enjoying it. So my first lesson I did with all the classes was I wrote them a letter on the board, and I told them a bit about myself, where I was born, my family, a bit about my husband, what he does, the fact that he's got a dessert shop in Dundee. And then I told them a little bit about my hobbies, my interests. Yeah, I just wrote them a letter, and then I asked them basically to write me a letter back. And it's such a lovely way of killing two birds with one stone, because first of all, you get to know children on a different level. Something I found hard about supply teaching is that you kind of expected to go into a class and teach them, but you don't have this prior relationship and bond building with them, which you would have with your regular class. And especially like if you've ever been a teacher, or if you're training to be a teacher, you know that the first week when you're with your new class, you actually spend that time kind of getting to know them, they get to know you, you're doing a lot of team building exercises, you're doing a lot of introductory exercises, and you're really like getting to know specific things about specific children so you can build those bonds. And I found the idea of like going into 9 different classes and not knowing anything about those children, and then trying to teach them in a way that's not just here's the work, you need to do this work, this is what I expect you to do. I like to build bonds in my teaching style. I like to like know things about children. I like to make sure that they know that I care. And to do that, I was like, well, how can I actually really get to know these children in an hour per week? It's very, very hard to do. So I decided to do the lesson plan where I wrote them a letter, and then of course their task was to write me a letter back, and I kind of gave them some prompts for each paragraph. And it was also then the second thing was that it was a really good way of figuring out where they were at with their writing, and kind of being able to mark that against the standards. I've been sort of looking at that in the holidays, and I'll be looking at that over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, like that is what I've been doing. And then my first lesson was sort of looking at VCOP, vocabulary, connectors, openness, punctuation. But in terms of my next term, it really depends on what each individual teacher would like me to work on with their class. And obviously that would have started from next week, but everything's changed. So I'm still going to be planning at home. I'm still going to be providing a lesson per week per class, but it's all going to be online, it's going to be remote. And then I have a feeling that we're going to be on some sort of rota to be in for the children, or key workers children. So that is where I'm at in terms of my career right now. It's just been a very strange time to be a teacher. I mean, in Scotland, I feel like, to be honest with you, we are a step ahead of England, in my opinion, like in quite a few different ways. I feel like Nicola said she's quite willing to take steps necessary to protect the country and to try and slow down the virus slightly faster than Boris. So for example, we had to wear face masks here quite early on. It became mandatory for staff to wear face masks across Scotland. That's all staff, all adults in schools. And not primary school children, they don't have to wear it, and also they don't have to social distance because they can't social distance, because suddenly the schools have not magically grown any bigger. We did have to have all the children in at once, so the children could not social distance. But obviously the amount of hand washing, hand sanitizing, the one-way system, there's been so many little things that our schools has put into place to keep them safe. And you know what, it's actually really worked so far. We've had a very, very low number of cases, and because everyone's sort of stuck to what they need to do, the cases that we have had haven't meant that everything's had to shut down, because everyone's sort of stuck into their bubbles. Now, in terms of like wearing a face mask all day, it is what it is. We're certainly not the only profession that has to do that. If you're working in a hospital, you're doing like 12-hour shifts sometimes, and you've got the face mask on the whole time. So that definitely is a lot harder than, what we're doing. And we are allowed to take it off only when we're eating. But even if you're sitting in the staff room, you're not having anything to eat at that precise moment, you are supposed to keep it on. And we are supposed to keep 2 meters apart from other staff members. So it's just like little things like that you have to adjust to and try and keep remembering, and that can be kind of stressful, on top of, for me, like taking on a very different role to what I was doing before. But I would say overall, I feel like my job satisfaction is definitely higher than it was maybe 2 months ago, because I get to plan lessons again, I get to teach again, which I'm really, really enjoying. There are obviously going to be challenges with it, but I feel like the environment I'm in is so supported. And something I've actually really enjoyed as well is, in Scotland there is a professional development review PDR system here. So every single member of staff has a PDR, which is where they reflect on their own job, on their own practices, and what's going well, what could be improved, what are their steps for improvement. And you have that chat with an SLT member. So I had mine recently, and I thought it was such a great way of checking in on each other, and for SLT to check in on their staff, and then for us to reflect on our own practice as well, and for like to identify what's going well and to also ask questions and get support. And I didn't really recognize any system like that in England, so that's, I guess that's for another video, but that's something I've really enjoyed recently. And yeah, I think that's everything I needed to sort of talk about and update you guys on. I know obviously if you guys are watching this, you are part of my Teacher Talk Tuesday crew, and I am dedicated to sticking to Tuesdays to only be for Teacher Talk Tuesday videos and also for book review videos. The most part I will do that. I think there is going to be one vlog on a Tuesday coming up, but apart from that, every other video will be teacher based or book based. And please let me know down below if there's any specific kind of videos you want to see, any topics you want to see. I know there's a lot on behaviour management and supply teaching, which I'm planning to do in a couple of months, because I didn't really want to do that until I've had more experience with properly supplying, and I feel like that's not being the case at the moment based on the requirements of what's been needed of me at work. So yeah, I can definitely do that, but just a little bit later on. I want to have more experience first, and obviously now with schools not really returning back to normal till at least February, I'm not going to get that experience anytime soon, but I could definitely do a video on experience for, you know, providing online learning and how that is going and things like that. So I could do that in the future as well. But let me know if there's anything specific you want to see, and thanks so much for watching. If you want to see more of my teacher related videos, I'll leave the playlist link below, or somewhere around here there'll be a playlist, I think probably over here. Hit thumbs up if you haven't already, and click subscribe of course, and I will see you in my next video. Take care guys, bye!